She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't slam doors or curse your name. In fact, she seems kind, soft-spoken, even angelic. But behind that delicate smile lies something far more calculated. She doesn't control you with force. She controls you with silence, with withdrawal, with a carefully designed absence that leaves you questioning everything. You try harder, give more, apologize for things you never did, just to feel that brief warmth she once offered so effortlessly. That's not love. That's manipulation. And it's not random, it's strategic. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli warned us, the most dangerous kind of power doesn't scream, it whispers. Today, we're exposing the most lethal tactic a covert female narcissist uses to quietly destroy your mind. If you've ever found yourself stuck in a relationship where you feel confused, emotionally starved, and constantly blamed, this video isn't just for you. It's about you. Before we go deeper, just one thing. If you've ever felt this quiet kind of emotional erosion, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to this channel. Because what you're about to learn won't just help you understand her, it might help you finally reclaim yourself. To understand the danger, you first have to recognize the disguise. A covert female narcissist is not your typical abuser. She doesn't demand attention with grand gestures or lash out in obvious rage. Instead, she operates in the shadows, crafting a persona of empathy, humility, and charm. She appears thoughtful. She appears harmless. But her true power lies in her ability to make you doubt your own emotions while she remains untouchable. Unlike overt narcissists who announce their superiority, the covert variant plays the victim. She uses softness as a shield and subtlety as a weapon. She will often present herself as misunderstood, overlooked, or quietly suffering. She'll share stories that make you want to protect her, and that's exactly the point. Because once you step into that role, you begin to absorb her reality. Her pain becomes more important than your boundaries. Her needs slowly eclipse your own. You're drawn in, not through dominance, but through a manipulation so elegant, you never see it as manipulation at all. But this isn't accidental. It's engineered. Every passive-aggressive comment disguised as a joke, every sigh that makes you feel guilty for doing something right, it's all part of the game. A game designed to keep you emotionally off balance while she maintains control. And if you think you can call it out or confront it, think again. The moment you do, she'll retreat into victimhood so convincingly that you'll end up apologizing for noticing. And that's the genius of it. You never fight her, you fight yourself. Centuries before the term narcissist was ever coined, Niccolò Machiavelli understood the game. In The Prince, he didn't speak of emotions in terms of love and tenderness. He spoke of power, perception, and control. He wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear." But the covert female narcissist has found a way to exploit both, not by offering real love, and not by instilling overt fear, but by threatening the loss of the illusion she created. Her most dangerous weapon is not what she gives you, but what she can take away: affection, approval, connection, all of it held on a string, just out of reach. One moment, you feel close to her, understood by her. The next, she becomes distant, cold, unreachable. You're left spinning, wondering what you did wrong. That emotional instability is not a flaw in the relationship. It is the relationship. It's what keeps you chasing her, trying to win back a version of her that never really existed. And this is precisely what Machiavelli warned about. The ruler who manipulates perception gains more power than one who rules by force. The covert narcissist doesn't need to dominate your body. She colonizes your mind. She becomes the one you're afraid to disappoint, the one whose moods you monitor like a storm on the horizon, the one whose validation feels like oxygen. But make no mistake, this is not love. This is governance. A psychological regime built on confusion, scarcity, and emotional withdrawal. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're no longer yourself. You're just a reflection of the control she carefully constructed. That's the silent empire of the covert female narcissist. And Machiavelli would not be surprised. He would be impressed. The most dangerous manipulation tactic she uses is deceptively simple: emotional withholding. She doesn't need to scream to control you. She simply stops giving. She withholds warmth, attention, intimacy, not to punish, but to provoke. To create uncertainty. One day she's affectionate, vulnerable, deeply connected. The next, she's distant, cold, unreadable. There's no argument. No explanation. Just silence. That silence is not emptiness, it's a carefully orchestrated message. You did something wrong, but I'll never tell you what. So you reflect. You retrace every word, every action, trying to solve a puzzle she never meant for you to solve. This is where the trap tightens. Because the more you try to win her back, the more power she gains. And she knows it. Emotional withholding creates a dynamic of scarcity, where love, attention, and validation are earned through obedience, not offered freely. This triggers your survival instincts. It activates what's known in psychology as intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that keeps people addicted to slot machines. Because the reward isn't consistent, your brain becomes obsessed with the pursuit. You try harder. You become more agreeable. You suppress your needs just to feel that warmth again. But the truth is, it was never real. It was bait. This tactic is so effective because it attacks the core of your identity. Over time, you stop trusting your emotional responses. You begin to gaslight yourself. You think, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe I expect too much, maybe it really is me. That confusion is the goal. Because if you question yourself, you won't question her. And all the while, she keeps her hands clean. She never directly insults you. She never says anything cruel. She simply withdraws. Quietly. Strategically. Until your self-worth is tied to her attention. And her attention is tied to your submission. This is not emotional immaturity. It's emotional warfare. And she's winning. By the time you recognize what's happening, the damage is already done. Not to your body, but to your mind. Emotional withholding, practiced over time, doesn't just hurt. It reshapes you. At first, it feels like confusion. You question why the connection that once felt so strong has suddenly vanished. You wonder if you said something wrong, if you crossed some invisible line. Then the doubt sets in. You start apologizing more. You second-guess your words before you speak. You censor your emotions to avoid pushing her away again. And eventually, you stop being yourself, not because she told you to, but because you've been trained to. This tactic works because it erodes your internal compass. It replaces self-trust with dependency. You stop asking, "What do I need?" and start asking, "What will keep her from pulling away again?" This constant state of emotional survival leads to a breakdown in identity. You're no longer acting from self-worth, you're reacting from fear. The brain interprets this uncertainty as a threat. Cortisol levels rise. You live in a state of low-grade stress, constantly bracing for the next withdrawal, the next emotional freeze-out. This is how covert narcissists maintain control, not through dominance, but through emotional scarcity. And here's what makes it even more dangerous. No one sees it happening. There are no bruises. No yelling. From the outside, everything looks calm, even loving. But inside, you're unraveling. Quietly. Invisibly. This is psychological abuse in its most undetectable form. It doesn't leave marks on your skin, it leaves confusion in your mind and silence in your soul. That's why it's so deadly. Because by the time you realize you're being abused, you're already convinced you deserved it. Men, in particular, are often blindsided by this kind of manipulation. Not because they're weak, but because they're conditioned. From a young age, many men are taught to suppress their emotions, to be logical oversensitive, and to push through discomfort without complaint. So when a covert narcissist begins using emotional withholding as a weapon, most men don't even register it as abuse. They rationalize it. They blame themselves. They assume they're simply failing to meet her emotional needs. But what they don't realize is that her needs are constantly shifting, not to be met, but to keep them chasing. It's not about resolution. It's about keeping you in pursuit. She wants your attention, your energy, your effort, not your peace. And because society often tells men to man up and keep trying, they stay. They endure the confusion, the silence, the coldness, all while trying harder, doing more, giving more of themselves until there's nothing left. This is where the covert narcissist thrives, in the man's fear of failure, in his desire to be the provider, the fixer, the one who makes things right. She doesn't need to scream or demand anything. She just needs to withdraw, and he'll come running, thinking he's the one who broke something. But here's the truth. Nothing was broken. The problem wasn't your effort. It wasn't your love. It was the game, a rigged, invisible game designed to make you feel like you're always one step away from being good enough. And as long as you're focused on proving yourself to her, you'll never stop to ask the most important question. Does she even deserve me? Because that's the final trick. The most dangerous part of her manipulation is not that she breaks you, it's that she convinces you it was your idea. To escape her control, you must stop playing the emotional game, and that begins with shifting your mindset from reaction to strategy. You cannot out-emote a covert narcissist. She thrives on emotional imbalance, on your attempts to explain yourself, to plead, to prove. The more you react, the deeper you fall into her design. To break free, you must become unpredictable, emotionally untouchable. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." That same logic applies here. Look at the version of yourself you've become around her. Anxious, uncertain, off balance. That's not a reflection of your worth. It's a result of the environment she created. And the most Machiavellian move you can make? Withdraw your attention. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet, unwavering clarity. The moment you stop feeding her manipulation with your confusion, her power begins to dissolve. The supply dries up. The control slips. And you begin to see her, not as powerful, but as deeply insecure, dependent on your reactions for her sense of dominance. Start by setting non-negotiable boundaries, even if they feel unnatural at first. Document her patterns. Stop arguing. Observe. Understand that logic won't save you here, but silence will. Your silence, not hers. Not passive, fearful silence, but intentional, strategic distance. This isn't about becoming cold or vengeful. It's about self-preservation. About exiting a psychological war zone and rebuilding your own emotional sovereignty. Because once you reclaim your energy, your focus, your self-respect, you'll realize something powerful. You were never the weak one. You were just playing fair. In a game that was never meant to be fair. There's a certain elegance in her cruelty, a quiet devastation that doesn't leave scars, only questions. That's what makes her so dangerous. The covert female narcissist doesn't need to break you with violence or scream to shatter your confidence. She simply rewrites your reality, one withheld emotion at a time. And the longer you stay inside her world, the more distant you become from your own. But here's the truth she never wanted you to realize. Her power only exists in your blindness. The moment you see her, really see her, the illusion collapses. Her charm turns transparent. Her games lose their grip. And all that's left is a frightened, manipulative woman who feeds on control because she has no control over herself. You won't get closure. You won't get an apology. But you will get something better, clarity. And with that clarity comes freedom. The freedom to stop proving, explaining, pleasing. The freedom to reclaim your voice, your mind, your peace. Machiavelli warned us about those who use perception to gain power. But he also reminded us that awareness, ruthless, unshakable awareness, is the antidote. You don't need revenge. You don't need her to understand what she did. You only need to remember one thing. The most powerful move is always to walk away without a word. If this message spoke to something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who might be caught in the same trap, and subscribe for more content that helps you understand not just others, but yourself. Because when you finally stop chasing the illusion, you make space for something real. Something that doesn't manipulate you to feel loved, but frees you to love without fear.